Hold on. Yeah. Thank you, Joanne. Well, sorry I
I
missed
wish
that.
I'd said something before.
Yes, thank you so much, Joanne.
Yeah.
So, Makala, do you want to say anything to the members and intro? I know you can't stay on the call long this time, but I just introduced you to some of our members, and we have some others that's going to be on a little late, but go ahead. We turn the floor over to you before we get started.
Okay, well, I just want to say it's so wonderful to meet all of you. I am in awe. I feel like I'm here amidst superstars and just amazing folks. You're doing such amazing work, and I really appreciate the introductions. I was taking notes. Um, just really such a pleasure to be in your company here, and love to learn more about all of your projects and all of the great work you're doing and the impact you're having. So. Just thank you for having me here. I've known Valerie, gosh, Valerie, I think we go back maybe to 2017 or so.
Yeah, about that.
I think it was Josie Baltadano who introduced.
Yes.
Yeah, and I still am in touch with Josie, and she's amazing. And so I am grateful to her for connecting me with you. So just over the years, Valerie and I have remained in touch, and it's just been a pleasure to brainstorm around some of these fundraising projects. I have a background in public health and have been in really the nonprofit sector, public health, social justice type organizations, education, done a lot of work with universities, as Valerie mentioned, and also pipeline programs for youth to expose youth to different careers and provide opportunities for career development and academic access to academic opportunities. So have really appreciated knowing about all the work that's being done in New Orleans around the school and supporting youth in having opportunities as they should have and retaining the school and the education. So, and I've been a teacher also, just have different aspects of my career have come together, and I absolutely love supporting folks and organizations in raising money for good causes so that everyone can do the great work that as you all are doing. So it is again just very grateful to be in your presence here, and thank you for having me.
Ah, you're welcome. Uh, yeah, thank you. I don't know how long you could stay, but we're gonna, with that, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Um, and thank all of you for being on the call, today. And, we want to, our topic for today is anything is possible. And, Lorelei wrote that because it just amazes me so much, and it just tickles me too, that she had the idea. So as we talk to Lorelei, I want all of you to think about something that you've done or some things that you've done where others didn't believe it could be done. Because we want to take that to the next level of whatever it is you supposed, you want to do. Or even if it's something that you're not thinking of, it'll click like, I'm going to do that. So just to let everyone know too, and I do want to set a call with you, Irma, as soon as we can. But the school in New Orleans, before we turn it over to Lorelei, the school in New Orleans did close. And after all of the kids been fighting, so I made a call, and I'll go into the details later with the national NAACP. And the national NAACP is on board with PWIC. But I was told, after doing a lot of prayer, they are there to help us. And it's going to be PWIC that get the school open with the help of the national NAACP. I've talked to them. They've sent me the person that's over the whole of Louisiana so they can start investigating. But PWIC is going to be the lead, taking the initiative and lead to have the school open as a model for keeping all the other schools open. And I'm really excited, and I can tell you more in detail one-on-one. I've talked to most of the members that's on this call about that project, but I really didn't want the school to close. It did, but it's a bigger picture because I know when one door closes, another door opens. And so what has opened is we will lead the model of how other schools around the United States can stay open because they're trying to dismantle education. And we're going to be a force to be reckoned with, because listen to all of you. And it's not about me, but all of us together pull our resources and knowledge together, and we're going to make a powerful impact and change the lives of these children. That's what it's about. So I just wanted to say that because that was like something that was seen to be impossible when they said, nope, we're closing the door. And I'm saying, no, I told the attorneys, by the fall, we need to give the keys back to the community. And so that's the strategy that we're coming up with. So anyway, we'll talk about that a little later. I'm so excited that we are going, that we're doing something, that we're not just talking it, we are walking it. So with that, start thinking about what seems impossible, or what someone is saying, or people are saying that's not possible for you. And you believe it in your heart that is true. And with God, we will make it happen. So, Lorelai, I'm turning it over to you to share your story.
Okay, good. Um, I was involved in a project that everybody said was impossible, and I was making candles. Is there an echo? No?
No, I don't hear.
Oh, okay.
Anyone hear echo?
No,
Okay, good.
everyone has to mute so that she doesn't get that
Yeah,
echo.
I hear background noise.
Yeah. So if
Okay,
everyone just
would
mutes, it
everyone
should be
mute and then turn it back on when it's your time to talk?
And I'm looking at my picture and hoping that's not my spirit escaping. My corporal body is left.
Yeah, we'll figure out why it's blurry.
Yes,
But go
yes.
ahead and talk.
Okay, I was making candles out in the middle of the woods in northern Minnesota. This is 200 miles north of Minneapolis, so it was not heavily, populated. And the tourists found me out in the middle of the woods in this little pole barn. I was making candles, and being an ex-teacher, I always like to do things with the kids. So I set up a little corner where the kids could actually dip their own candles and take them home. And it was so popular that when the season was over, I thought, they're so hungry for something of quality to do. So I came up with this idea of building a whole village of things out in the middle of the woods where we would have, pottery, woodworking, candle dipping, quilting, stained glass, where the tourists could come and see the artisans doing this and actually participate. So I called 11 of my friends together and I gave them the idea, and they said, "Yeah, let's do it." So here was the thing. In order to do this and be open by Memorial Day, we had a real strict deadline. So we bought 67 acres of wilderness. We had to build a road. We had to drill a well. We had to bring in electricity. We had to do a septic system. We had to build 8 cottages to sell the goods in. We had to find 200 crafters who did really high quality work. We had to hire 60 people and train them to be cashiers in the shops. And then when all this stuff came in, we had to display it in the shops. And we did all of that from the day we broke ground to the day we opened in 5 weeks and 5 days. And none of us knew anything. I mean, the woman who said, "I'll run the construction," she was an English teacher. And the woman who ran the restaurant said, "Well, I put, 3 meals on the table every day for my family. I can handle that." And the woman who took over the craft was a teacher of the learning disabled. I did the publicity, and we ended up with publicity nationwide. And I was just a candle maker. But we never told ourselves, well, we can't do this. We just said we're smart women and we'll figure it out. And we did. And it was just an amazing, amazing project because the I hate to sound like a sexist here, but would not have been done in 5 weeks if it was run by men because they're more authoritarian. And we did it as women. We nurtured everybody. We praised. We every afternoon at 2 o'clock we'd say, "Come on down to the big house," and we'd feed them strawberry shortcake and ice cream and donuts. And as a result, everybody who worked on that project gave 3,000%. It was amazing. And the day we opened, we incorporated as founding mothers because women equally with the men settled this country, but there are no founding mothers in the history books. So we incorporated as founding mothers. And the morning that we opened, we stood at the top of the hill and watched the cars streaming in, one car after the other, and we cried. We cried because we just were so in awe. And, like one of the founding mothers said, well, they probably came to see the crazy women. And I thought, yeah, that's probably true. And also to see if we actually could make it. Because the night before we opened, it was still a mess. I mean, the construction, the sawdust, we still didn't have doors on some of the buildings. And we had all this work to do to open for the next day. And the man who did the restaurant furniture brought a load, and then on the way out, he said to his son, "They're never going to open tomorrow." No way. He came back the next morning with the last of the tables, and it was pristine. It was incredible. And it was because we worked all night, and our family, our friends, our everybody came to help us. It was a real community effort at that point. So and we were told it was impossible. And one of the magazines in Minnesota, Corporate Report Minnesota, said what the women did would knock the hard hat off of any general contractor. So you never tell yourself you can't, and I teach now for women. It's called Seven Keys to Kicking Butt. And and because women, I think, oftentimes hold themselves back. They say, "Oh, I'm too old," or "Oh, I don't have the training," you know. And and so that's what I try to encourage women to say, "Hey, it doesn't matter." Actually, when the project was over, um, I actually did a video on it, and that's attached to your newsletter. You can see the founding mothers in action. And what do I know about making a movie? I don't know anything, but I didn't tell myself that. I just said, okay, I'm a smart woman. I'll figure this out. And I did. And it turned out so well that PBS has shown it several times. So uh, those are the things that I like to do to encourage women. Are there any questions?
Yeah, if somebody is not mute. Um, so Lorelai, when you first got the idea, like that first day that you got the idea, did you have any doubts about it?
No, I really didn't. And on the PBS picture, they came and filmed the first day we were building. And I'm sitting on a stump in the middle of the forest. And there's a pile of lumber behind me. And the reporter says, "And when are you opening?" And I say, a month from tomorrow. That's our first building that's going to be going up behind us. And there wasn't a bit of doubt in my voice. We were going to open a month from tomorrow. And the women all adapted that. And another reason that we succeeded is we never looked back and said, "Oh, wasn't that too bad that?" We had a reporter that came and after talking to me said, "Okay, what was the most traumatic thing that happened to you when you were building?" And, I couldn't think of anything. And one of the founding mothers came by and I said, Faith, what was the most traumatic thing that happened to us when, when we were building? And she couldn't think of anything. And about 3 days after the reporter left, I slapped my head and I went, oh my gosh, don't you remember 3 days before our grand opening, the health department came in and said, you have to move the septic because the guy who had drilled the well had put it too close to the septic system. We had to jackhammer up the floor in the restaurant in the basement. Now that's traumatic, but we couldn't we would run across these problems and we'd solve them and we'd go on to the next thing. And we never ever sat around saying, "Oh, wasn't it too bad that?" And that's another reason I think that we succeeded.
Wow, that's so amazing. That's so amazing. Marcia, do you think what in your life that you've done that just blew your mind? I mean, you did it, but then after it's like, oh, I did that.
Yeah. I think getting into nursing school, I thought it was going to be easy, and I applied to all these big universities that I wanted to attend because I did well in high school, so I thought I could do well in college, but I never heard from anyone. And I went back to my high school to see my advisor to find out what happened to my applications, and they were all still sitting on her desk. She hadn't sent one application out to anybody. So that's why I didn't hear from any college. And so I was in despair, thinking, I'll never go to school. Nobody's going to accept me because they don't even know I'm here. And it was my dad who went and found a small little college in Lodi, New Jersey, run by nuns. And they came and interviewed me. I went and interviewed with them, and they advised me that they didn't accept Negroes into the program. I would be their
Wow.
test case. I was their test case. So I almost gave up, but I had a parent who showed me that you never give up. And so I attended. I did very well in school. I graduated. I passed the state board exam. I became a registered nurse. I couldn't believe that that happened. So it gave in me the belief that we can do anything that we set our mind on. And with God, I think all things are possible. And I've learned that through the rest of my life. So that was my mountain that I climbed and succeeded. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think sometimes these things happen,
Yeah.
and we have to look at why.
Yeah.
You know, I was making candles, like I said, out in the middle of the woods in a pole barn,
Yeah.
and on a 4th of August, on a hot, humid night, it burned to the ground.
Mm,
And and I was saying, well, why did this happen? But I rebuilt and built something bigger, and that was why I had room for the tourists to come and
mm,
dip their own candles. I wouldn't have had that in my smaller building.
yeah.
And so that had to be cleared out. And I think sometimes when bad things happen to us, we need to look at, okay, what's being cleared away
Yeah.
to prepare me for the next part of what I need to be doing.
Very good. Very good.
Wow. Awesome. Maureen, what about you? You're on mute. You're still on mute. Let's see.
I guess listening to what I'm hearing, I just really don't feel like I have anything that kind of meets any of the levels of anything that dramatic. Maybe some other people look at what you've done and they think you do, but I just really haven't had anything
What's right
that
there at that and what that the first thing you're thinking about? And
well. I
yeah.
think I think it kind of lends itself to everything that I've done, and I have to say, I guess it really was after my divorce that just something took me. I left Erie, I left my parents, And I kind of went out and had to rebuild myself. I had a brother that lived in Las Vegas at the time, and that was kind of my first connection there. I was waiting, so we went out to wait for my son was getting he was coming home from Iraq, and he was stationed in 29 Palms, which is very close to Las Vegas. So, and this was all at the same time. And then, so I went out and I stayed with my brother. And then we found out my son wasn't getting back at that time. But the short amount of time I was there, my other son was with me, and he looked around and he says, Mom, I want to move here. I said, well, if you're moving here, I'm moving here. And so then we both went back to Erie, and I don't know how I look back now in a million years I ever told my parents. They were in their 80s, and I had been there in Erie with them every minute of their life and taking care of them. But something just kind of took me. And so long story short, so I kind of ended up out there and kind of had to rebuild myself, just to kind of get my identity, my strength, and everything back. I joined the Rotary. I taught at UNLV. But I guess it just showed me, because I think if I would have stayed in Erie, I would have kind of wallowed in a little bit of feeling sorry because I lost my home, I lost everything. And then you see people and you can't get past it. So by going out there, you can just really start over and get your mental and physical strength back. And then I think then from that point, it just really kind of let me know whatever it is I want to do, I can do it. I can do it on my own. And then you're not as afraid to take chances. So it wasn't one, I don't know, particular type of thing, but I guess in a way it was.
Right.
And there, I came back, I started things in Erie, and I just kind of reinvented myself, still being who I am, but not. It could have gone either way because it was quite traumatic. And then I just came back to Erie in a better place and got right back into doing my homelessness and housing and volunteering and those kinds of things. And that's just something that I continue with every day. And I think right now I'm probably a stronger person by myself than even I was kind of a quietly strong person when I was married, but you still kind of fall under that shadow of your husband. And so I guess all that just allowed me just to kind of say, whatever it is I can try it. I have nothing to lose. You don't have anyone really kind of in the back of your head kind of criticizing you, telling you can't do it. So it's just you saying, hey, I've got nothing to lose. I can try this. And um, there's a few other things in between there, but to keep it short, I guess that is the first thing that came to my mind.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. What about you, Dr. Irma? Because I know you're doing some incredible things. We can't hear you. You're on mute.
I said I was until recently, given all the changes that have been happening under the current administration. The work internationally is in turmoil at the moment. Consequently, a lot of the projects on which I've been working and colleagues have been working, a number of them have been closed, or if they're not actually closed, the organizations that are running them are hesitant to move forward. So I find myself receiving a lot of requests from people saying, if you know of something, if you hear of something, let me know. And if they're in the US, they're trying to figure out how to get to the Europe. And of course, Europe isn't much better at the moment, because it's some of the same organizations. So we're in a stalled period of time. My own view is, because people are in turmoil, because people are in angst, it's a very difficult time to job hunt or to find consultancies. And I have a consultancy firm. So it's kind of holding the faith that things will calm down and things will resolve themselves, even though in the heat of the moment it's very difficult. And it's very difficult trying to talk with people where their livelihood is under attack
Yes.
because they never thought that they would be affected by things.
Mhm.
So I'm dealing with a lot of people right now that don't have safety nets.
Yes. Yeah, I find that a lot in New Orleans with the parents of the students. So we're trying
Right.
to make, come up with a plan to get them sustainable. Oh, you're
Mhm.
absolutely right. And thank you for sharing that. Miss Florida Connie.
Well, I've tried real hard to get this Green Vistas, the Eco Village going, and I haven't done it. So I wrote a book, and it's doing well. I know I'm working to write on how showing a story on not just this veterans. I want to help the cities and the places, and I talk about the children. My first time walking up to the bayou and the fish all dead and trying to struggle, and the whole channel was blood red. And that was I was 14, and that's when I decided I wanted to be an environmentalist. And I'm not an environmentalist. I was too young for that. I ran home and asked my parents, what could we do about this? And they said, there's nothing. Monsanto's a big company, girl. So, and then I was suffering from every time the wind changed, I couldn't breathe because of it was so difficult breathing that toxic air. So, long story short, I'm on the Congressman Soto's Environmental Advisory Council. I was chair of Osceola County Soil and Water Conservation Board, but now I'm writing a book to help that shows every day how we can help urban deserts. They're not food deserts. There are so many places, not just urban, even rural. And so I'm writing a book that shows how people can make a difference and impact this. It's a growing concern, not just here in this country, but all over. And then how by having areas just green, I give the Louisville project, how these poverty areas, two of them, they couldn't high crime rate, and a community came in, and Louisville studied. They went in and put in trees and plants and playground, and then I have all the documentation of how it impacted the areas because they studied both areas, and how crime rate went down, how health issues went down. So this is what this book is about. I want to show that we can solve not only housing, but we need to solve the food deserts. Before I was adopted at age 8, I remember being hungry, so hungry. You can't believe how hungry I was. And I know what it's like to have your stomach crawling up your spine. And so if I could do anything about this, and I'm not very good at raising money, but I can raise cane with my books.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Connie.
You
I hear
know,
your heart really touched toward it. Thank you so much.
this is Lorelei, and I have this idea that we need to start a nationwide movement where, for a 24-hour period, any elected official in this states, in the United States, whether federal or local, 24 hours they go with no food. Because that's the only way they're going to understand that your stomach.
3 days without
3 days, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, 3 days.
except we know
Wow.
that they'd all cheat.
Yeah, I
But
got
you
it.
know what? It's the only way because when you're hungry, your stomach hurts,
Yeah,
and they
I
don't
know.
understand that.
No,
And
they don't.
they don't understand why kids in school can't learn. when
Right.
they're hungry.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference. Thank you so
I
much,
taught
Lee.
school in New Orleans, so
Yes,
that was my first career.
got it. Coletta, are you able to talk?
Yes. So you want me to give you my opinion of how we
Yeah,
move
you
forward?
just share something that seemed impossible to other people, but you did it. Whether you thought it was possible, but you still did it. Did that.
Okay, so I'll use the example of me and being in law school. And so my first year, I had one of the students who said, when we get to the end of the first year, that you will not take the final exam. And so I was like, was already a hurdle. So the bottom line is that we ended up having a fire. During the time I was in law school, I was also I took enough courses to enroll for the RN program as a nurse. So I managed the restaurants for the elderly, and we had our own restaurant called Jackson Haven. So anyway, the bottom line is, nursing. I didn't. I've always been a caregiver, but what I wanted to, from a little girl, is to be a lawyer. And so what resulted is that, basically after my first year, this is what he was saying, that I wouldn't be there. For some reason, somehow, I was not going to be there to take the exam. So what resulted is that when we had our, exam, I was there. And so he came to me and he said, I must have been wrong. So during the time, his wife was having premonitions around me, which, at the time I didn't understand. But because we had those conversations, he was projecting that something's going to happen to me physically. So the bottom line is, I went home that evening after the exam, and I was getting my hair braided and so forth. Bottom line is, we had a fire in the building. It was a three-alarm fire. I had six patients in the building, and the fire started up under the building. It was a homeless person. I guess, he had a cigarette and somehow he lit it. So bottom line is, by the time I figured out that the fire happened, I came home about 2 a.m. And so, because I had to wake my husband up to go to work. We had a McDonald's franchise at the time. So at any rate,
Hmm.
the punchline. I, could smell, smoke, and I kept saying to him, I said, was there a fire earlier or what? So, the bathroom area, uh, this is
Hmm.
Victorian. So I raised the window. I was in the bathroom, and then I went all through the building, checked on the patients. I went through the kitchen to make sure nothing was on the stove, and everything was fine. So we got a sprinkler system, but the sprinkler system doesn't come on until the fire is inside the building. And so when I came back in the hallway after going through this, big staircase, I saw smoke going in, flowing from the window in the bathroom. And I said, oh my God, it's outside. I pulled the drapes back, and the whole back of the building was on fire. And so it resulted is that the gas meters blew. And the reason why the fire department came was because they thought neighbors thought it was gunshots. Okay. There was a three-alarm fire. So what I'm saying to you is, because of his wife and the premonition that she had, I took my exam, came home, but the fire it was later that evening, that night. And so because of that premonition, that's what saved my life. And so what I'm saying to you is that in the course of everything I did, like with Garcia, when she talks about having this counselor who she thought she was submitting her applications and they never left her desk. Um, that this whole thing of being a black woman in that law school, there was always this light on me. We had a previous black male who graduated from the law school, but I am the first black woman to graduate from my law school. And when I graduated, I had my son, and he was in a cap and gown with a little graduation cap on. Joseph went through law school with me. So my son, he's brilliant. But I'm saying, when you talk about against all odds,
Yeah. Thank you. That's an
that
incredible
is
story
my
too.
testimony. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Gail, are you able to talk? Gail,
I'm here.
are you able to share something that you didn't think you would do and that became possible?
Well, in '85, when I was first elected to the school board, I had a group of people with me who helped me identify um, 4 areas that we would try to focus on uh, if elected. And I was elected, and so we identified 4 areas to work on. We began in hope, but it seemed like we had overdone ourselves in terms of the projects we identified that we would like to do to address the key issues that we saw needed to be addressed. And in trying to keep a positive belief that, those were issues, if we just do like what you say, how you eat an elephant, bite by bite.
Mhm.
The 4 areas, there were 4. It was the area of the number of dropouts in the schools. At that time, we had about 100,000 kids in public schools. And the dropout rate was very high. And we wanted to do something about that. The second area was follow up on kids who finished from the local high schools. And it was during the time when Reagan was pulling back on scholarship help, and we wanted to have an invigorated program that put a lot of emphasis on kids doing secondary, doing post-secondary educational opportunities. And the third one had to do with the number of kids who were eligible for preschool, but they weren't enrolled because there wasn't the money to do a lot of preschool activities, programs, that is, like pre-kindergarten. So that was an area we were looking at, early child education. There needed to be programs for that. Then the fourth area we thought that we really, really needed to work on was to really get parents involved in very substantive ways, parental involvement. And so those were the 4 key areas that we focused on. Post-secondary education, which we tackled with establishing a scholarship foundation, which we'll be talking about more next month.
That's so great. Gail, I remember that you shared when we were in New Orleans that you had never intended to run for school board.
No,
And
absolutely not.
and people kept telling you, and you did it, but you didn't think you would win. So that was something that you didn't have in your vision as possible, and then stayed on for 20 years and became one of the legends of New Orleans, well known and so humble and still giving back. And I'm just honored to have you on our team because you bring so much to the table and so much good food too. Because I've been to her house to eat when I'm in New Orleans. She can cook.
Well, we have to keep up the New
When
Orleans
when
tradition.
we we're gonna come and visit your extraordinary house with that extraordinary food. And the first thing I will show you when we go to New Orleans is Gail's stove. It's like one of a kind. It's a chef, it's so gorgeous. So when I bring people there, we have a meeting by Gail. And I say, go in the kitchen, go look at the stove. And they come back, wow. So anyway, just wanted to share that. So let's see, Dr. Watts, are you able to talk? You're muted, Dr. Watts. She may be driving or in a meeting. So I'm going to go to Latoya. And Dr. Watts, you can jump in whenever, because I want to get some feedback on schools in New Orleans. Go ahead, Latoya.
Good morning, everyone. I have a story to share. It's almost a double-edged sword, where I didn't think I could do something, but then also others didn't think I could do something. And so, thank you for sharing my grandfather's history. He was one of the first Black lawyers to graduate. And I got to tell a little bit of his story just so it connects, so you can understand why I say what I say next. But he was one of the first Black lawyers to graduate from Southern University. And his first case out of law school was integrating Louisiana State University in Shreveport, which was successful. His second case out of law school, his frat brother Thurgood Marshall asked him to sit second chair on Brown versus Board of Education, which you may have heard about that case, and it was also successful. And so, because of
Amazing.
that, pardon?
I just want to say that's amazing.
Thank you. So for that reason, there were a lot of threats on my grandfather and grandmother's life, my dad's life, and my aunt's life. So they moved west to California. However, my grandfather continued his path in terms of helping marginalized people and especially the Black community, serving as president of the NAACP for a cumulative of 20 years, not 20 consecutive, but 20 cumulative years. Also escorting the first Black student to integrate a school here in San Francisco, Lakeshore Elementary, serving on the school board, creating a housing development corporation. A lot of folks who migrated out west, they were coming to work at the shipyard and the factories. And you probably remember Rosie the Riveter. That was based on the women's worker story in Richmond. And all of this comes together with me because when I was younger, I didn't really know my grandfather's impact. I just knew that a lot of people thought he was important. And
You want to give your grandfather's name?
yes, Alex L. Pitcher Jr. So when I was in elementary school, all I wanted to do was be a lawyer. I already knew by second grade I wanted to be a lawyer. I started studying Latin. I became fluent also in ASL, American Sign Language, just in case I had a client who couldn't speak or couldn't hear. And so I was very adamant about that. And then in sixth grade, I found out my grandfather was a lawyer. And I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing no path that's already been laid by a family member. I'm not following in his footsteps. I don't want to follow in his footsteps, etc. And so that's why the story kind of comes full circle, because I didn't think I could do it because I thought the shoes are way too big and I just refused to attempt to fill them. But then also so I decided I was going to go into tech. I was going to be rich. I wasn't going to have any kids. That way I was going to keep all my money to myself. I was never getting married, so I didn't have to worry about nobody telling me what to do. And I got married. I had 3 kids and went into tech. And I have the best life. It's not the easiest life, but it's the best life. I'm divorced now, but I still have my 3 babies. And so while in tech, I'm doing this work in terms of management, tech is dominated by white men. And in terms of analysts, it's dominated by Asian men. So I don't really have a circle. I worked at PG&E for 10 years in tech, and there were 1,876 tech employees, and there were only 4 Black tech employees. So everything I learned about tech, working for private companies, startup companies. I'm here in San Francisco, so I have a lot of access to Silicon Valley companies. What I saw that I thought was amazing is that their infrastructure, how they're able to do startups and grow into multi-million-dollar businesses in 3 to 5 years. One experience in particular was a startup company that had hired me to do an assessment of why their product was failing, their software product. I specialize in software. And I was known for being a straight shooter, direct, and also efficient, and can work pretty quickly. And so once I did my analysis, came up with the recommendations, they were like, okay, great. Can you present it to our investors? And I'm like, no, present it yourself. You didn't hire me for that. And because English was not one of their first or some of their second languages, they didn't want to present it. They didn't feel like they would be credible in presenting it. So they paid me additional money to present it on their behalf. And I just knew that it was going to be like a resounding no with the investors because they had already invested $4 million for a software product to go live in 3 years. And it was 2 years in and they were at zero. And here they were coming back asking for $10 million to finish the project. And so after presenting to the investors, it was a unanimous yes. And I was completely baffled. So while everybody is like high-fiving, shaking hands and attaboys, I went to one of the investors I felt was most approachable and said, hey, what made you vote yes? And he said, because you were able to communicate what mistakes you were made and you had a plan for how to correct the mistakes or how to resolve the issues created by the mistakes.
Wow.
So it's just about being honest and having integrity. And so I took that and I said, okay, how do I share this with small Black business owners? How do I share this with women business owners so that they can get access to these same angel investors and capital venturists? And so I created my nonprofit, Family Equity Partners. And I said, I wanted to share this information to small businesses outside of the tech world, number one. I also was an advocate in the schools around families because I didn't like the way Black families were being treated, especially when they came to raise a concern. As soon as a mother showed up, oh, it was the angry Black woman trope. Or if it was a dad and it was like, oh, does your child even live in the household? Which is like, it doesn't matter. Or do you have, what's your highest level of education completed? It doesn't matter. I can advocate for my child's education regardless of who I am and what my background is. And so I go with parents because when they see me sitting there, they already know what time it is and they don't play those games with me. So when I was going to someone to mentor me when I was just founding the nonprofit, I'm like, I want to focus on economic development, small business. I want to focus on education. I don't want small business to be an afterthought. I want these young folks to know as early as elementary or middle school that entrepreneurship is a viable option. It is a part of workforce because one, you're creating self-employment for yourself, and then two, you're creating jobs for other people. So you can contribute to the national and global economy that way. Don't just think about punching somebody else's clock, which is fine. I punch somebody else's clock and I have my own business, right?
Yeah.
And so I also wanted to teach them how to advocate for policies. You know, when the mayor creates their 5-year plan or 2-year plan where they want to focus the city's budget or the county's budget, or even the governor where he's going to focus his budget, how do you get in those rooms to speak up for people who don't normally have voice or agency in those rooms to say, this is what we need to focus on to better our community, and here's the impact it could have. And so I was told that you can't do all that. Pick one. It's not possible. And it was like, okay, cool. And I picked one mentor for each area to guide me in those areas. And I was able to successfully do them all. And so now we have the city's budget, which is focused on housing and economic development under the last mayoral administration, as well as this one. And I also have state level agency and influence to do it. We've been doing small business consultations and improving their infrastructure for the last 3 years. We are launching all of our courses now in an e-learning format where people can log on at any time of day and take whatever courses they want. And they are anywhere from 3 to 30 minutes, most of them. And then also in the education field, I am doing train the trainer. So I'm training other parents on how to be in the room and advocate as a parent advocate with families so that it's not just all on me and a few others, but we're building a community of parent advocates on the east side of San Francisco.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. I think we want you to do a newsletter so you can share more about what you're doing. You have so many talents in so many different areas. It's just amazing. So you are wearing your grandfather's shoes. Sorry, you have them on. But that's
Unfortunately, yes.
yes. And yeah, so yes, we would love you to do a newsletter. I thank you. And I know you brought up a lot to the table with helping us with that letter while you were still, not feeling your best. So thank you. Thank you so much.
I just want to say we love Alex Pitcher.
Yeah,
And we
I heard
love
there's a
you.
building or park or something named after him in San
And we
Francisco
love you,
as
Latoya.
well.
God bless.
Yes.
God bless.
That is so great. I'm glad Dr. Joe is on. I wanted to so we don't have a lot of time for you to share because I know you have amazing stories. However, I do want to pick your dynamic brain, and I want to shift from and thank everyone for sharing. I think going forward, we will have the so we could put in more time on the projects and the things that we're doing, to have the one person to just do all the sharing and instead of everybody. I'm just brainstorming now because I wanted to put a lot of time into getting your input on ideas to save the school. So I'll tell you quickly what's going on, and then I would like to hear from everyone on your ideas. And I have my tablet here. I'm gonna start writing it down. And Dr. Canton and Marcia, if someone says something that, oh yeah, we need to put this in, because we're not just saving the school in New Orleans. This is a model, using it as a model to save all of the schools that's being closed around the United States, because education for our youth, they are our next leaders, and we have to put all our focus on our youth. So what's going on with the school is it's politics, power, and greed. Just being straight is what I see. So, and Gail, please feel free to jump in at any time. So what they're doing is they took they closed the school down. One of the reasons they said they didn't have enough students in the school. And they are busing those kids out to other schools, which means they're getting up earlier. They're coming in later. They're going to drop out. The crime is going to go up because these kids are not going to put up with that. So they are bringing in another school from another area because that school has mold, and put them in these kids' school. That's going to bring anger. And opening the school up because they can make more money doing it that way. One of our community leaders asked the school board, well, what about the kids in the community? That's their school. What about them? They said, oh, they'd be all right. We're just going to bust them out. Like, yeah, you just don't do that. So our goal is, what I want is to have ask our attorneys to get together to come up with a way. I'm not an attorney, so I don't know what can happen, but whatever they come up with to happen, that they give the keys back to the school in that community by the fall. They can bring in the other school to be a part of that, but that would increase the attendance. These kids are fighting for their school. They want to go to school. So I just wanted to give you some insight on what's going on. Gail, you want to say anything on that?
Yeah, I think you've covered it. Yeah, you've covered it. Basically, it makes no sense to move the kids out, especially if the basis for closing it is low enrollment. Let those youngsters remain and increase the enrollment if you have other schools that need a place and they come in. So it really makes no sense. I don't understand that process. I do have intentions of trying to find out through resources directly from the school board as to what is the thinking behind that. It just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
That the children who are currently there would have to leave to go to another school and then bring in, it's like playing checkers or chess with the children. Yeah, you covered it, Valerie.
Okay. Connie, do you have it? You have your hand raised.
Yeah, has their cost analysis been done on what it's going to cost to bus the kids out, bus the kids over, all these things that have to be done, and how much more it's going to cost to do what they're doing. They need to provide a cost analysis. I think when it's done, they're going to find out that they're making a huge financial mistake, and they don't like. That's the only thing they care about.
Got it. Dr. Joe, do you have anything?
I always have something.
I love it.
But I want to thank y'all. I'm honored to be here with all you ladies, because I find myself, I think it's because I was raised by women that I'm always finding myself in the company. One of the things that I was thinking about is how do you talk about this school? In other words, demographics relative to its performance. What is the performance? When you talk about how long, in terms of the length of time that the school has been in operation, what are the results in terms of dropout rates, people who leave the school and graduate and go forward? What's the graduation rate, etc.?
Yeah.
I think is how you talk about this institution with data is going to be very important. It's in terms, and in addition to what Connie mentioned in terms of the cost effectiveness of merger. And what many times I found these school boards never deal with data. They deal with politics. And I think that should be a place to start, having that information as to how you talk about this particular institution, which makes it what it is, and how a merger, if you merger rather than busing folks away, you're integrating a school, you're bringing in, you're just increasing the population. So there's no point in sending someone else or spreading them out throughout the city, which brings on the other conflicts that you're talking about relative to people travel distances away from home and that sort of thing, study time, the community itself, which feeds into student growth and development.
And also emotional trauma of leaving. Isn't that should be considered and talked about? Because if they have a school they love, and then suddenly they lose that, and other kids are taking over, it's, how would you like to be treated like that? That's just not right. It's
Right.
It's going to cause trauma. So ask them how much they're going to pay for counseling for those kids.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Well, let me ask you this, because it seems like in this political,
Val, what I wanted to say is that,
come on. I was thinking that in this political environment, facts don't seem to matter. Alternative facts is what they're looking at. And I think I think the nation have fell victim to that particular thought process where you can come up with a particular plan or change, but there's no rollout in terms of what it should look like. We've gotten to the fact where we like the big, beautiful bill that destroys folk lives. But nobody's asked to say, well, these things will do in terms of the change. I think the better you're able to talk about that, or will make a difference. I just think in this environment, we're dealing with folks many times it don't matter. They're dealing with political thoughts, which is not left to cost analysis.
Got it. Thank you.
One more thing is that these kids have already been through so much. This is Katrina that started it, all of this. And they've been neglected forever. And now they're going to do this. It just seems like it's horrific.
Got it. Thank you. Coletta, you had something.
Yeah, Val, I just wanted to say that in reference to, it's different after what Joe was talking about. The statistics show that anytime you take the children that are in a community where the school is there and they want to go to that school, and then you're going to turn around and bust them out, what results is that it puts a direct impact on the family. And what I mean by that is that and they're not going to be able to have the same number of children that are going to actually be at that new location. And so the reality shows that when they do that, you already have single parents that they're trying to do everything they can, get them to breakfast and do what they need to do to get them to the school that's close in their community. But when you take a situation where now you're going to take them out of that location and an environment where the kids love to be with their teachers and that location and the students that they have been growing up with.
Yeah.
You're going to put them in a situation where you directly create a negative impact on them.
That's right.
And so my point is that that's immoral.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Colette.
And it's there's another agenda under that where you are actually treating them like they're second-class citizens. And no educator should stand for that.
Well, a lot of these kids went to the so this is Martin Luther King High School. They went to Martin Luther King Elementary School. So, and the teachers, they're not that far. The schools are not that far from each other. They know the teachers. Some of the teachers followed them to the high school. So it's more like a family. And the kids themselves have told us, this is a place where they can be kids, where they could feel safe. They have the teachers are very dedicated to them. And the band, for instance, is one of the top bands in New Orleans. They parade, they go all over, and they are recognized. And it's
outrageous.
Yeah.
It's traumatic.
So, Latoya, you wanted to say something?
Yes. I want to say I completely agree with the approach that everyone has mentioned, the part about it's using data to tell the story, the part about talking about the community impact, also the part about talking about the financial impact, what's the cost of doing this versus not doing this. I think all of them need to be a part of the strategy. It needs to be a multifaceted strategy. And here's where y'all probably gonna throw tomatoes and put me out and not invite me to the next meeting. But a lot of this is the warm and fuzzy. What you need, and let me put it this way. What is I've seen work in San Francisco is you follow the money and you shame the people with the money to where they back away from the deal. Somebody's looking to buy that property. So at my boys' school, they're 9 and 10 years old, elementary school, Malcolm X Academy here in San Francisco. They have tried multiple times over the last 15 years to close that school. And the reason I put my boys there is because it is the most resource school at no cost to the parents. A math interventionist, this wonderful doctor from Russia, a literacy interventionist. And they have all these different resources, right? And so I'm like, well, why would they close the school? The classroom size is optimal, in my opinion, and also comparative to that in a private school where it's 15 to 20 kids max, whereas the school district wants 33 kids minimum, where there's just one head teacher and there's no paraeducator to support. So now the children will be undereducated and underserved, under-resourced, right? So I was trying to figure out why. I looked at the property surrounding the school. You have the housing development, which Housing Authority has contracted to the John Stewart Company to do property management. John Stewart Company bought the vacant land right next door to the school that used to be a community park, Ames Bees Park.
Yes.
And then you also have the new development of homes at the shipyard that is continuously growing, and that area is growing. So if John Stewart can get a hold of that property where Malcolm X Academy sits, they're saying they're going to build more housing there to make more money. The reality is they're going to wait for the market to fall and collect the other property around it and then turn around and sell it when the market recovers. So they got a superintendent in there who's been across the United States, and in San Francisco was a 51 unified school district that he served as superintendent at. He completely demolished Hayward Unified, which is about 30 minutes from San Francisco with no traffic.
That's the truth.
Where he closed down the schools in the Black and brown neighborhoods, made the kids have to go on the other side. And it's a greater distance in San Francisco. So it really created problems educationally for the students. It was hard on the families to being able to get the kids to and from school while going to work. When you think about it, and you think about how under Lyndon B. Johnson's administration and then also Reagan's administration, the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development, they had a division called the Destabilization Division.
That's right.
And it was created to destabilize communities on purpose. So I know I sound like I'm kind of all over the place, but the point I'm trying to get to is you have to understand, because I know you understand. I think we need to create a piece of the strategy that addresses the money. Who's waiting to buy this property of Martin Luther King High School? Who thinks they're about to buy it? And we shame them publicly and get them to back away from the table. It may only save the school for 5 to 10 years, but at least it's a strategy that I've seen work.
Yeah, I know.
You're gonna get a standing ovation for that.
Yep.
That's right. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
We're not gonna throw
that's
tomatoes
really
at you
great
for
input.
sure.
One of the things I do know, and then I'll call, I would acknowledge you, Irma. One of the things I know is that this school is gorgeous. FEMA gave that area $38 million to build a school. And there's a state-of-the-art gaming room where they teach the kids engineering skills. These kids get to compete with other kids around the United States. They have a medical wing where they teach them medical skills. The kids are obedient when you walk in the school. They still saying, yes, ma'am, no, sir. And if the teachers just look at them, they're like, am I in trouble? That's how we grew up. We don't, and they teaching them respect. They teaching them morals. They teaching them, what they're giving to them is what is the ideal school and staff that we need to build upon to showcase what other schools are. But I just wanted to say that, yeah, it's a gorgeous school, and they putting in a program, KIP. I'm sure charter school in that place. So I don't know all the logistics. Gail could talk to us.
That's it.
About that.
Charter.
Yeah. So Irma, go ahead.
I'd like to reinforce what Latanya has said. I think it's also a question. They expect us to talk about the things we've been talking about. They're prepared for that. They're used to hearing that kind of conversation. So part of it has to be in part of the strategy, building on what Latanya is saying, is what's in it for them? The people who make the decision, what's in it for them? Who are they and what is driving them? It may not be money, it may be political, but it means we need to have a better understanding on the other side, how they're looking at the issue. We know how we're looking at it, but how do they see it? Because when we're formulating the discussion, when we're formulating what we want to say, we need to also understand what's going to resonate that they hear it. Because they'll be comfortable with, oh yeah, it's a wonderful school, the children are respectful, fine, fine, fine. But I'm really interested in X, and that's what we have to find out as well. What is the X for them?
Okay.
It's all about something else most of the time. And I think that's what Latoya was trying to kind of remind us, that people will have us focus on the thing that they think we're interested in, and they'll hide
What they are
the
interested.
thing that what they're really interested in.
Wow.
You look like you build this school was built on an outstanding educational model.
Yes.
Because you've combined both the vocational with the education, with the general educational kinds of teaching.
Right.
And certainly in the world today, you got to deal with technology because that's where we're behind. We're significantly behind in technology. I don't know if we ever catch up with AI today, but those are the kinds of things that I see has to be talked about. And maybe, I don't know what the politics are in terms of the community demonstrating not only the benefit in terms of even merging the schools, but at the same time, let that model that was developed continue to grow and be developed.
Yeah.
And some, well, it just blows me away sometimes because the schools, I didn't go to that type of school in the city. I grew up in the country. I grew up in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, segregated school. But yet, as you guys were talking, I had teachers who told me there's can't is just can with an apostrophe T. And that stuck with me all my life. So I never thought I couldn't enter and do anything. Matter of fact, I was so full of myself, folks thought I was cocky. But the idea was I never felt that there was anything I couldn't do. And as a result, I've been able to do the things that is considered for black, plus stay out of jail for 83 years. And that in itself is a challenge today. So I just want to point out that I think, I don't know, the newspaper, how generate marketing of this process to get the school back to where it was in terms of the model that was developed. It's an outstanding model.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And
As I understand.
Yeah, we just brought the kids to NASA on a field trip that they can look at things they never even thought about. Like put their engineering into, the ones that are trained in engineering, the ones that's trained in the medical field. How could they incorporate it in something bigger than themselves? That the kids were blown away. And the feedback that I got for them is something that, they will carry for their lifetime. They were exposed. Go ahead.
Maybe it's a time to also look for allies. Who are other people who would be interested in this issue? It's not their issue per se,
right,
but they can be allies because they have access to people maybe we don't have access to. I'm saying that keeping in mind the current climate in the US around these areas where people are hesitant, people are backing off. So it's a time to look at how can you how can we create a movement, if you will, a groundswell. So it isn't just one or two that get
Yeah,
knocked off easily,
right.
but it's a group. It's a larger sense of people seeing what's important. And that's where allies become important. People who
That's so
wouldn't pick this
great.
issue up,
Yes,
but now that they're aware of it, they see its relationship to something else they're interested in.
got it.
That's what I mean when I say, what's the thing that's driving somebody else?
Got
And
it.
maybe I can link what I'm doing with what you're interested in, and therefore we're both now interested in this.
Okay. So Gail, can we find out, is there a way, how could we find out why the school board is doing this and what they're interested in? And, so we could kind of get a better sense of what they're doing and why they're
Yeah.
doing it.
Well, let me just say this. First of all, I am just absolutely astounded and amazed by the quality of this conversation that started with Valerie giving you 3 points of her opinion as what the crux of the issue is. And she said it really, in her opinion, was about politics, power, and greed. And just from that and with the absence of all the nuances related to each of those areas, you all have come up with an amazing assortment of insights that is so true. I think that the whole issue of the politics of this, the power and the greed piece goes way back. When I was president of the board, the Martin Luther King Elementary School was built, and the forces at that time were really interested because the school again was a state of the art. It was in the lower ninth ward. It was predominantly black, 99 and 9/10 black, and there were forces that because of its location, it was on the pathway to another parish community known as Chalmette, which is essentially at that time it was especially the total opposite of the demographics of Orleans, and there were forces trying to somehow make that school available to Chalmette, and it's amazing that it continues, obviously, to be forces for whatever reason, whether it's related to the school itself and its resources, again, to open it, to connect it to another parish. Because fundamentally, the belief is that, when you have a high quality building or school built, it's, blacks are not deserving of that. There's some kind of way of you can snatch that away from them and make it available or give it to someone else. Who knows? That may be the reason for, while it's a totally different school board, of forces on that current board that may have that in mind. But I think fundamentally, you've all given an affirmation to the direction we need to take, because it's really about politics, power, and greed. And we've got to be able to identify that, the specifics of that, in whatever way we can, and address those issues, and really make it a fight. They're all resources. You need to know that this situation is part of the larger problem in New Orleans. That New Orleans, they have bamboozled the black community into a system of charter that doesn't exist anywhere else in this country.
Doesn't
and doesn't work. And that was in essence about power and greed, because the charter system has opened up the resources and money for others to take advantage of.
I
It
believe
costs
they're doing
a
it
parent,
in Texas
yeah,
and in San Francisco.
yeah, bits and pieces, but our entire system is a charter system. The entire system in New Orleans is chartered. And so it costs right now for that to work under the guise of being a choice. You have the choice. It costs at least $500,000 per school to operate the charter system.
Got it.
So that's the greed part.
Yeah.
Just a sampling of the greed
Got it.
of this entire system. So it's a battle. Martin Luther King is only one of the schools that's been closed because they've got to go. They've got to, in order to keep this system of the so-called choice, you choosing. They've got to close schools because they've overbuilt. There are more classrooms than their children. The system is built on per child in the school, so it's a huge undertaking. And your topic for today is really appropriate because when you think about it, it's like it's so ingrained and so deep, and they have covered so many of the bases in order to operate as the current presidential system now is. He's taken care of all of the very institutions that protect the democracy. And in this charter system, they have taken care of all of the various protections in order to maintain this charter system, which is made up of politics, power, and greed, and has nothing to do with education improvement.
Yes. Latoya, thank you so much, Gail. Latoya, you wanted to...
No, thank you for the people on this line. It's amazing without having all of it. And there's so much more nuances and facts. And yet you came up with a clarity about the direction in which we need to go. The question is PWIC ready for this fight?
I'm ready, because we got to save the kids. You know, we have to do like Lorelei, just don't know all the answers and just get to the results.
Absolutely. And someone said it's not about, facts.
Right.
Facts don't in this situation.
Okay, Latoya, you had something to say?
Yes. First, thank you, Gail, for illuminating the charter school issues, because at one point I was like, okay, charter schools, that's just another option in schools. But when I sat on the board for the charter schools here in the city, I realized it is not a viable option, at least not for our children. KIPP being one of the biggest charter schools in San Francisco, they continuously underserve and undereducate our children. So when you said KIPP, Valerie, I got scared, like, oh no, we can't let them take over this school.
Well,
we got to fight tooth and nail.
They're giving the school too.
Yeah, and so these, at least in my experience, these charter schools have run like corporations. They remind me of my times at Microsoft or Yahoo. It's literally, you like the education or you don't, and if you don't buy, nobody cares. That doesn't work. I wanted to add this little piece before I stop talking, is I think there's a political aspect. Valerie, what you and your team has done to support these kids, build this school, get it built. Let's start there. Get it built and get the kids in the schools, support the schools, and then just advocate and bring together all these people to support and advocating for keeping it open. Is somebody probably thought it was impossible, right? And you're doing the impossible. So I just want to commend you and tip my hat off to you on that, and everyone who stands behind you on the side of you. And so you don't have to carry this load alone. Also, the kids for remaining resilient through all of this and
Yeah.
getting through finals. My daughter getting through finals this week. And so I could only imagine you're worried about your school and you still have to do what you got to do at school. It's
Yeah.
hard. And so, as you develop this strategy, I think it'll also be helpful while you're developing the strategy, having maybe a team of folks who can do some deep diving. And what I mean by that is you need your own raw data to be able to leverage to build the strategy. You could build the outline, but what I've used in the past is either a lawyer or like where I've used my relationships with lawyer friends to have their paralegal or legal assistant access LexisNexis to look into school board members, look into who's potentially buying the property and see what's going on with them, because that's how you get to the real information as to the why. As forgot who was talking about that earlier. I think it was Dr. Irma, excuse me. You need that information. I think you also need information as to the what, like, or what Dr. Irma said is the X. And I think you'll get it faster by having somebody, maybe even a private investigator, but somebody who has access to be able to look into the individuals. Because as long as they are a group and you don't know where's the head of the snake, it's going to be hard to take the head off the snake. The rest of them will follow. They'll all crumble because that's how they operate. They move in wolf packs, in my experience at least. And if you can get to the head, the rest of them, they'll shy away because they don't want to be embarrassed, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, here in San Francisco that I saw that work, it may or may not work with where you're going on, but the parents don't usually know how much power they have. They don't understand their power, their rights. And so giving them access to that information in digestible pieces like one pagers that have focused on one topic. You have the right to, advocate for your child to be in this type of class, or to be able to get these resources without an IEP or a 504, or there's a set of money by the state to serve particularly your child who checks these boxes in terms of criteria or requirements. So start disseminating that, creating those kind of campaigns where you disseminate like 6 to 8 leaflets within a series, maybe every other week. Give them time to digest it, create dialogue on social media, because folks always feel like experts on social media. They don't want to show up to no meetings and forums, but they'll show up on social media. I think that'll be a great way too, because now there's this buzz. Like, unfortunately, our administration is more focused on Twitter. Our presidential administration, let me be clear, is more focused on Twitter than he is on policies, foreign or domestic. And so I think leveraging social media will also be great once you get that plan, that strategy together. And then the third piece is making sure everybody understands how the money works. So here in the city, for a general ed student, $1,400 per day. Special ed 504 student starts at 1,800. IEP starts at 2,200, depending on what additional resources they get. So now that you're able to monetize, like your child is worth this much to the school district. When we threaten to do a 3-day sick out for the kids, because that's after 3 days, you need a doctor's note. When we threaten to do a 3-day sick out, we intentionally put rumors around, and they seen how much money they were going to lose for 3 days. It was like, oh, you know what? Never mind. We won't close schools. Oh, never mind. We won't do, combine classes and make it harder on the teachers. Oh, you know what? You guys want a paraeducator in each class? Okay, we'll work on getting that. We'll create the positions and we'll interview for it, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's another power of the parents that they have and may not know they have.
Yeah, one of the things, and I heard you say we got to put everything together. We intend to, after they get all the input from everybody, to do a call with the attorneys. So we have some attorneys in PWIC, and also the NAACP say that they are going to bring what we say to the national attorneys. So we come up with what we want. So one of the things I heard you say, that after you investigated KIPP, that it doesn't work for our kids. Could you put like a bullet point together of why it doesn't work for the kids, like some statistics? Would you do that and then send it to us?
I have one comment to make relative to to develop a battle plan, a strategic plan, and have this drawn out in terms of your approach and your attack. In other words, we need a plan of action that is clearly defined, and then work that plan to get it done. I think I guess I'm from the military. You're going to fight. You better have a battle plan. And in that
Yeah.
battle plan, you got to say how you gonna approach the enemy.
Got it.
How you going to define the objectives that you want to achieve in that battle plan. It's a strategic plan of action so that whatever happens, you're able to work with the troops or the people that you're working with to get it done. I
Got it.
think I'd like to see that happen. That would be beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Connie, you have something, and then we're going to go ahead and sign off, and I'll talk to everyone individually.
I wanted to say is that here we're having the same thing, but it's a lot about they want to control, brainwash kids and get rid
And
of
Connie's in Florida, just so people can know.
and get rid of DEI every way possible, okay? And brainwash kids, but what they think is what Christ said, but the way they're practicing what Christ said is just totally obscene. And that's what Ron DeSantis is doing here in Florida. And I hope you know that we're fighting back because the kids need to have, we are a blended country. We need to blend. And this is crazy what they're undoing 50 years of progress in our educational system.
Yeah. Thank you, Connie. I appreciate that. I think we accomplished a lot. Joanne, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, are you closing it out?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say something about me. And if you're not, I will. I'm
Yeah,
the one
Joanne is going to she's turning over. Yeah, we were gonna do that after I was gonna be on a call, but Joanne is still a part of PWIC, but she's having some memory problems. And she's no longer gonna be sending the cards out. Lorelei is gonna do that. So
I want everyone to know how much it has meant to me to be on these calls. I will continue to be on the calls, but I plan to continue to be on these calls. I will not be sending the cards every month, but it has meant so much to me to send, after the calls, to create a card and send it out to each person every single month, and just remember the call and remember what got said and so on. It is just, I've done it for several years now, and it has meant a lot. But I'm at the point in my life right now that I can't do that anymore. Lorelei Kraft is going to start doing it, and
yeah.
I think she'll probably. I'm just waiting to see what she's going to do with it. Go, wow, given
Yeah.
what all she did to create the village, what she created, and she and the other women created in 5 weeks, in 5 days, and
Yeah, well,
I just want everyone to know that I have enjoyed sending the cards. I have appreciated, being on the calls, and it meant a lot to me to
yeah.
send the cards. And I'm not stopping doing it because I don't want to do it anymore. I'm stopping doing it because I can't do it anymore, because I can't. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So I just appreciate everybody and these calls and everything, and I will miss doing it, but I'll still be on the calls when it works for me, when my brain allows me to get on there. But I'm amazed at what's going away and what's
Yeah, we're
happening.
still in process with that. I was gonna make the announcement probably on the other call because we're still trying to figure out the logistics. But yeah, thank you, Joanne. And thank you for continuing to be. And I'm still working on some things to increase your memory too. So
Okay.
I
Great.
wanted to ask everybody that's left on this call, please pray for Dr. Carolyn Scott. She's in the emergency room right now. She was supposed to be on a call, and her tongue has swollen up again.
Oh,
And she said it's really
My
serious.
God.
And
oh,
so she's
Yes.
asking for prayer.
Mm.
Please pray for her that her tongue goes down. They find out why it keeps swelling up, so that they can, find what it is, and they could do like Latoya say, find the head of the snake on it and cut that head off.
Mhm.
But I want to thank everyone for being on the call and giving so much input to the
yeah.
things that we could do to save the school. I see those kids, work with them, and just knowing that they starting to feel defeated hurts my heart. But they still in the fight. We're still working with them. Gail is We're planning a retreat for them to teach them some leadership skills, and Gail gonna teach them how to cook, and I think they have doing something like that. But anyway, we're gonna have a really great time, with them and continue with them. We're still looking at the 3 seniors that we have to try to get them in college. So we will be in touch. Thanks you again for all of your amazing input. Dr. Joe, thank you for being on the call today. We really appreciate you.
Mhm.
And I just want to, just tell everybody thank you. So Gail, would you like to say anything before we sign out?
No, I've enjoyed very much being in the company of all of you, and I appreciate so much the work that you do in your various areas, and God bless each one of you. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for being on the call. Latoya, we'll talk later. And I will see you all. Have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you again so much for all you're doing. And changing lives and saving our students for our kids for the future. Your name's going to be
God bless
written in
everyone.
history.
It was great being on here today and listening to everybody, hearing
Yeah.
everyone. I could just sit here. I wasn't worrying about anything. And how am I going to say that? How am I going to do that? I just listened and enjoyed it. That's what was so great about today for me. I didn't have to, wasn't sitting here thinking, oh, what do I say about, how do I put this in a card? What do I say about, no, just enjoyed being here with you.
Yeah.
So,
No,
it's good. And
so much.
God bless you, Joanne.
Connie,
God bless you.
thank you. Thank you. Connie, it was good to see you. Yeah. Thank you.
Good to see you too. Good to see you.
Yeah, Coletta, text Dr. Scott and tell her you're in prayer for her.
Oh, of course. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, tell her we all praying for her.
Yes, indeed. Because thank you for letting me know.
You're doing great work, Valerie. Everybody, but you're a great leader. Great leader.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Oh, well, Joanne wanted to stay on the call or talk about the cause. I guess that's not going to happen. That's fine with me because I'm tired. It was a great call. Thank you, Lorelei. No assist.
Did you want to have a meeting again or a conversation with one of the other women? You said
Yeah, it was Joanne, but she signed off. That's what I said.
Oh, okay.
So
Very good.
She
Then
forgot.
then I will sign off too.
Me too.
You bet. Talk
All
to you
right.
again.
Thanks so much.
You bet.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.